Hello there. I have another story from the Winnie the Pooh book for all of you today. And this one is about Tigger. Now, of all the characters in Winnie the Pooh, your Aunt Ray liked Tigger the very best. And your Nana's favorite character in the Pooh books, when we would read them, was Eeyore. And you'll have to ask your daddy which was his favorite because I don't remember. But this is the story of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, too. Let's get started, shall we? One fine day in the 100-acre wood, Winnie the Pooh was sitting in his thoughtful spot when his thoughts were interrupted by a sound he knew very well. Boing, boing, boing. Hello, Pooh, it's me, Tigger, exclaimed Tigger, bounding in and bouncing Pooh right off of his log. T-I-double-D-R spells Tigger. Yes, I know, said Pooh. You've bounced me before. Tigger jumped up and shook Pooh's hand. Well, I'd better be going now. I have a lot more bouncing to do. Nearby, Piglet was busy sweeping up outside his house. He began to hear a noise, which started off smaller than Piglet himself, but quickly grew larger and larger. Suddenly, the noise turned into Tigger, who bounced Piglet right off his feet. Oh, Tigger, you scared me, said Piglet. I did? But I gave you one of my little bounces. I'm saving my biggest one for old long ears, Tigger said. Well, I'm glad I got one of your little bounces. Thank you, Tigger, said Piglet. He waved goodbye as Tigger bounced off down the road in the direction of Rabbit's house. That should do, Rabbit said as he gathered up an armload of carrots from his garden. But then he heard a sound he knew all too well. Boing, boing, boing! Oh no, cried Rabbit, stop! But Tigger didn't stop. He bounced Rabbit right off his feet, sending the carrots flying every which way. Oh, Tigger, would you ever stop bouncing? Rabbit moaned. Why would I? Bouncing is what Tiggers do best! Exclaimed Tigger. He started to sing. Oh, the wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made of rubber and their bottoms are made of springs. They're bouncy, 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 fun. The wonderful thing about Tiggers is I'm the only one. As Tigger bounced away, Rabbit stomped angrily around his garden, gathering up his scattered carrots. Something must be done about that Tigger, he said to himself. That afternoon, Rabbit invited Pooh and Piglet to a meeting at his house. I say, Tigger is getting too bouncy these days, Rabbit began. Now I've got a splendid idea. We'll take Tigger on an expedition to someplace he's never been, and then lose him. Lose him? Pooh repeated. Losing someone didn't sound to him like a very friendly thing to do. Oh, we'll find him again the next morning, said Rabbit. But by then he'll be a humble Tigger. And an oh so Rabbit, I'm so glad to see you, Tigger. It'll take these bounces right out of him. Next morning, Rabbit, Piglet, Pooh, and Tigger set off on their expedition. The mist was so thick that they could hardly see their feet at the ends of their legs. Tigger bounced in circles around the others. He bounced ahead and came back again. Finally, he bounced off into some specially thick mist beside the trail, where he seemed to disappear. Quick, Rabbit said eagerly. Now's our chance to lose him. He ran into a hollow log and pulled Pooh and Piglet in behind him. Then he peeked out from inside the log and breathed a sigh of relief. Tigger was nowhere in sight. My splendid idea worked perfectly, Rabbit said. Now we can all go home. Pooh was very glad to hear that they were going home. Yum, 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 time for lunch, she said. Halloo, called called a voice from not very far away.
Oh no, it's you-know-who, cried Rabbit.
A second later, Tigger bounced onto the very log where Rabbit, Piglet, and Pooh were hiding. Hello, he shouted right into the log. Rabbit, Piglet, and Pooh didn't say a word. Tigger hopped off the log and bounced away into the 100-acre wood, still calling, hello! Rabbit jumped out of the log.
Hooray, he cried. We've done it. We lost Tigger. We can go home now.
So they started off toward home.
It's funny how everything looks the same in the midst, said Rabbit a few minutes later. Well, take this sand pit, for instance. I'm sure we've seen it before.
I'm sure you're right, said Pooh agreeably. They kept walking and soon came upon the same sand pit. Rabbit, what if as soon as we're out of sight of this pit, we try to find it again, suggested Pooh. Because you see, we keep looking for home, but we keep finding this pit. So if perhaps we looked for the pit, we might find home.
Nonsense, said Rabbit. If I walked away from this pit, then walked back to it, of course I would find it again. Wait here and I'll prove it.
With great determination, Rabbit set off in the midst. Pooh and Piglet sat down in the sand to wait for him to return. They waited and waited and waited. Piglet fell fast asleep, leaning against Pooh's tummy. Suddenly, he was awakened by a grumbling noise.
Who was that?
Asked Piglet, jumping up. Why, I believe that was my tummy rumbling, said Pooh. I'm awfully hungry. I think we should go home and have lunch. Do you know the way, Pooh? Asked Piglet. Well, I have 12 pots of honey in my cupboard that my tummy very much wants to find, so we can simply follow my tummy home, Pooh exclaimed. Piglet tried to be as quiet as possible so that Pooh's tummy could concentrate. Then, just as Piglet began to know where he was, boing, 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 it was Tigger! Hello there, you two, he said. Where have you been? We've been trying to find our way home, said Pooh.
But we seem to have lost Rabbit somewhere in the midst,
added Piglet. Leave it to me, said Tigger. I'll bounce him right out there in no time. At that very moment, Rabbit was as lost as a rabbit could be. He was so scared that he was trembling from his ears all the way down to his toes. Little noises he wouldn't have noticed on a sunny day suddenly sounded loud and frightening. Soon Rabbit was so scared that he couldn't stand it anymore. He ran as fast as his legs would carry him and ran straight into Tigger! Cried Rabbit. Rabbit had never been so happy to see Tigger before. You're supposed to be lost. Lost? Tiggers never get lost, said Tigger. Come on, Rabbit, let's go home. Hang on. And Tigger placed his tail in Rabbit's hand, then bounced off toward home. Rabbit held on tight through the mist and the mud. He was now a thoroughly humiliated rabbit, a lost and found rabbit. Oh, why do these things have to happen to me, Rabbit? But more than anything, he was a happy to be going home rabbit. A short while after Rabbit's getting lost adventure, it began to snow in the 100-acre wood. The snow fell quietly all night long. In the morning, a soft white blanket covered all the houses in the forest, including the house where Kanga, the little Roo, lived.
Mama, when is Tigger going to get here?
Asked Roo. Be patient, dear, said Kanga as she swept a path through the snow. He'll be here soon. Almost before the words were out of her mouth, Kanga and Roo heard a familiar sound. Boing, boing, boing. There I am, said Tigger. Did I surprise you?
You sure did, said Roo. I like surprises. I like bouncing too.
I know, said Tigger. That's why I'm here. I've come to take you bouncing with me.
Hooray, said Roo. Roo and Tigger said goodbye to Kanga, and then Tigger led the way out of the yard with his great big bounces. Boing, boing, boing. And Roo followed right behind him with his very little ones. Boing, boing, boing. When Tigger and Roo had gone a short distance into the forest, Tigger called, "Hey, look, Roo, it's Long-Ears." Rabbit was gliding happily across the frozen pond. In fact, Rabbit was enjoying his skating so much that he didn't even see Tigger and Roo. "Can Tigger's ice skate?" asked Roo. "Ho, ho, ho, ho," said Tigger. "Ice skating is what Tiggers do best. Watch." Tigger bounced onto the pond. "Whee! This is easy," he said as he slid across the ice. First, he was skating on one foot, then the other. Next, he tried to skate on the tip of his tail. That's when he started wiggling and wobbling and slipping across the ice straight toward Rabbit. "Look out!" Tigger cried. "I can't stop." When Rabbit turned and saw Tigger headed his way, his eyes grew very wide. He threw up his hands. "No, no, no, no!" he shouted. Tigger, who had very little choice in the matter, just kept on going. He crashed right into Rabbit and then slid into the snow. Rabbit went flying through his front door, knocking over everything inside. "Oh, why does it always have to be me?" moaned Rabbit. "Why, oh, why, oh, why?" "Yuck!" Tigger said, spitting out a mouthful of snow. "Tiggers do not like ice skating." Tigger and Roo left Rabbit and bounced further into the wood. "I bet you're good at climbing trees, huh, Tigger?" said Roo. "Ho, ho, ho, ho," laughed Tigger. "That's what Tiggers do best. Only Tiggers don't climb trees, they bounce them. Come on." With Roo on his shoulders, Tigger bounced from branch to branch up to the very tippity top of the very tallest tree. "Pretty good bouncing, huh?" said Tigger. But when he saw how far he was from the ground, he wrapped his arms around the tree trunk and cried, "How did this tree get so high?" Suddenly, he felt a tug on the end of his tail and looked down to see Roo swinging back and forth from the end of it. "Oh, stop that, kid! Please," begged Tigger. You're rocking the forest." While Tigger was busy getting stuck in the tree, Pooh and Piglet were busy tracking some footprints around the bush. They stopped when they heard a loud "Halloo!" "Look, Piglet," said Pooh. "There's something in that tree over there." "Halloo!" called the voice again. "Pooh, Piglet," called a second, smaller voice. When he looked more carefully, Pooh saw that something in the tree was Tigger and Roo. "Hello," said Pooh. "What are you two doing up there?" "Well, I'm all right," said Pooh, "but Tigger's back." "Help! Somebody, please help!" cried Tigger. "Get Christopher Robin!" It wasn't long before Christopher Robin arrived, Kanga and Rabbit right beside him. "My goodness," said Kanga, looking up. "How did you get way up there, Roo?" "It was easy, Mama. We bounced up," said Roo. "But now Tigger's stuck." "That's too bad," said Kanga. "No, that's good," said Rabbit happily. "Tiggers can't bounce anybody as long as he's stuck there up in the tree." "We can't just leave him up there. We have to get them both down," said Christopher Robin firmly. "Now, everybody take hold of my coat. Ready? Okay. You're first, Roo. Jump." "Try not to fall too fast, dear," Kanga said. "Here I come. Whee!" cried Roo. He landed safely in the middle of Christopher Robin's coat, then popped up into Kanga's arms. "That was fun," said Roo. "Come on, Tigger, jump." "Jump? Tiggers don't jump. They bounce," said Tigger, clutching the tree tighter than ever. "Then why don't you bounce down?" suggested Pooh. "Don't be ridiculous,"
Tigger's only bounce up, said Tigger.
Then you'll have to climb down, said Christopher Robin.
Tigers can't climb down because their tails get in the way, said Tigger.
And he wrapped his tail tightly around a tree branch. That settles it, said Rabbit. If Tigger won't jump or climb down, we'll just have to leave him up there forever.
Forever? Moaned Tigger. Oh, if ever I get down from this tree, I promise never to bounce again.
I heard that, cried Rabbit, jumping for joy. Did you hear that? Tigger promised never to bounce again.
All right, Tigger, Christopher Robin called up to him. It's time for you to come down now. Finally, Tigger unwound his tail from the branch and slowly and carefully climbed down. As soon as his feet touched the ground, Tigger was his old cheerful self again. Hey, I'm so happy to be out of that tree. I feel like bouncing, he cried.
Don't forget what you promised, Rabbit said quickly. No more bouncing.
Oh, yeah, said Tigger. Does that mean I can never, ever bounce again? Not even a teeny weensy bounce?
Not a smidgen of a bounce, said Rabbit.
Tigger's tail flopped. His shoulders dropped. He walked off sadly toward home. Tigger's friends watched him go. Roo tugged on Christopher Robin's coat and said,
I like the old bouncy Tigger best.
So do I, Roo, said Christopher Robin.
Me too,
said Piglet, and Pooh nodded. We all do, said Kanga. Don't you agree, Rabbit?
Well,
said Rabbit. He thought about all the times Tigger had bounced him off his feet.
Yes, Rabbit, said Pooh. Well, you see, said Rabbit,
He thought about how sad Tigger looked, walking off without his bounce.
Oh, all right, said Rabbit at last. I like the old Tigger better too.
Oh, boy, shouted Tigger, who had heard Rabbit from far away. He returned with a quick bounce. You mean I can have my bounce back? He picked up Rabbit and hugged him. Come on, Rabbit, let's have a bounce together. Rabbit couldn't believe his ears.
Me bounce? He said.
Oh, sure, said Tigger. Look, you've got the feet for it.
I do?
Asked Rabbit. Everyone looked down at Rabbit's feet. No one had ever noticed before what good bouncing feet they were. Rabbit tried a little bounce, and then a bigger one, and then a bigger one than that. Before long, he was bouncing just like Tigger. A smile spread across Rabbit's face. Oh, come on, everybody, he said. So together, Pooh, Piglet, Kangaroo, Tigger, Rabbit, and Christopher Robin happily bounced all the way through the 100-acre wood. Wasn't that a great story? I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Nana sure enjoyed reading it to you. That was fun, wasn't it? Okay, it's time to sign off, but I'll be back with another Pooh story next time. Night.